Welcome back to the Eber Show. And today's conversations is something every brand touches, but a few truly read. We're going to talk about payments. But before that, across Southeast Asia, the way that people pay is changing really fast. We're looking at things like wallets, QR codes, and pay later options. And these are no longer just tools of convenience. They're more so a signal of trust across brands. And so in this episode, we are going to explore what East Asia's spending habits reveal about the future of commerce, especially in 2026. Not from theory, but from real transaction data across Malaysia and Singapore. So that is why today we're joined by our very special guest, Aditya, the co-founder and CEO of HitPay. Welcome to the show, Aditya. HitPay sits at the intersection of payments, merchants, and consumer behavior, and it gives them a unique view into how people decide, spend, and return. So today we'll unpack what payment choices reveal about loyalty, convenience, and also how brands can build repeat businesses in a digital first economy.
HitPay is essentially a platform that we built for for SMEs. Essentially, we've strived to build a fair, accessible payments platform for merchants that transact on both online as well as offline channels.
Mm.
As I mentioned, I started the journey about 8 to 9 years back. Prior to me starting off with HitPay, I had a sort of background in financial services for a fair amount of time. And I sort of just tried to marry my background in financial services and my interest in digital and tech. And it was the start of the fintech era, as it were, in Southeast Asia back in 2016. And sort of that led me towards starting the company back then. Fast forward to today, as I mentioned, that's headquartered in Singapore, but we're very much a regional business today. We operate in three markets in Southeast Asia, which is Singapore, Philippines, and Malaysia. And from a payment standpoint, we actually provide coverage to the whole of Southeast Asia. So if anyone's looking to access Southeast Asia, they don't need to look any further than HitPay. They just come to HitPay and they get access to both in-person as well as e-commerce capability just through one single platform.
Mm.
Um, Today, we serve well over 10,000 businesses across all the three countries. We are a team. We are also a very lean team. We are a team of about 30 to 35 employees spread out all across Southeast Asia primarily. And we have processed like well in excess of $1.5 billion in payments during our journey. So yeah, looking forward to sharing my insights today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on the show today. Aditya, what key payment trends are you actually seeing across Southeast Asia? I think moving into 2026, people are preferring to pay in so many different forms. There's like pay laters, there's like QR, there's also like Apple Pay that just got into Southeast Asia not too long ago, less than 5 years ago. So, what are some of the trends that you're seeing, and what do you think they reveal about how people shop today?
Yeah, I think we have some unique insights here where we operate an omni-channel platform. So that's e-commerce as well as in-person. 5 years back, just a little over 5 years back, you would say that majority of e-commerce transactions was probably done through cards and maybe the odd bank transfer. Fast forward to today, that's completely flipped on its head, where I would argue that real-time payment methods like a Pay Now in Singapore or a Do It Now in Malaysia are or even FPX in Malaysia are probably your primary payment methods for most merchants for e-commerce. And then they supplement that with a Grab Pay, a Shopee Pay,
Right.
then the buy now pay later schemes from Grab and Shopee as well as Atomy. And then you throw like some other cross-border payment methods into the mix, like a WeChat Pay for China or Alipay or even UPI from India. So it's completely flipped in a very short period of time. And where we see a lot of resistance against your card payment networks. And we're seeing this in both Singapore and Malaysia. You'll probably be surprised by me saying that for Singapore. And we are increasingly seeing like an adoption of non-card payment methods for both e-commerce and in-person. You would argue that card adoption is greater amongst certain verticals, merchant verticals on offline versus what you would see in Malaysia. I think Malaysia, again, you would see Do It Now being very, very popular in terms of transacting offline. And then, of course, people would add in cards. So I think, to summarize, e-commerce, there's a drastic change towards sort of adopting non-card payment methods. And offline, it's really dominated by your pay now and do it now, which is real-time payment methods. And then, of course, a lot of folks have cards as well. So you would see a 50-50% distribution for offline and maybe about 60 to 70% in favor of cards to 30% non-cards for online. So we see like going forward, looking forward, we see this like the trend of non-cards only going one way, which is going higher essentially. And this is the same not only in not only like in Singapore, Malaysia, but also in the Philippines as well. In the Philippines, so amongst the three markets, I mean, I get off only from the perspective of these three markets right now because we operate in them.
Yeah.
Philippines, the card penetration is significantly lower because there's a lot of unbanked population in the Philippines. So that's why you see Gcash adoption there being very high.
Mm.
So you see the non-card payment method adoption being higher there, especially for offline. So yeah, like Southeast Asia is a very fragmented region, as everyone knows. There's 6 countries. Sorry, it's actually eight countries here. Like that constitutes the ASEAN region. But but really, um, you can't bucket everything into sort of one single uh, uh, single sort of trend that you would see across all of these markets. So because you have to really deal with every market with a fresh set of eyes and not make any assumptions when you look at attracting customers from any of these markets.
Do you think, I mean, definitely, do you see the kind of differences in terms of like industries or different ticket items across these spending habits and purchasing, preferences?
Yeah, so I think obviously a lot of folks do want their card rewards. So the
Mm.
higher the basket size, the more likely you are going to be paying with cards. So if it's a furniture item, for example, a lot of folks like to use a BNPL or they would use cards. But if it's low ticket values, like high frequency, low ticket values, I think that's where you would see sort of using do it now, pay now, or QRPH in the Philippines, for example, or any other real time payment methods, or even wallets like a Grab or Shopee, for example. So I think that's broadly like what you see, like based on basket size.
What do you think drives that adoption across the three different markets that you have seen?
So I think you speak to any SME anywhere. I
Mm.
think the first thing that they talk about is payment processing fees.
Mm.
So I think the merchant is always incentivized to to provide the cheapest like payment option essentially. They want the convenience of a payment gateway. They absolutely want it and they value it. But I think they do worry a lot about payment processing fees.
Right.
So I think like that's why we in Southeast Asia we are actually in a very unique position to have all these different payment options where merchants can actually reduce their payment processing fees. In a lot of countries, especially in the West, you only have one option, which is a card payment option. So I think this is where merchants can use multiple payment methods to actually lower their cost. And this is something that we've seen. 5 years that like we have operated since 2020. We have saved merchants well in excess of $30 million. If HitPay did not exist, basically we have saved merchants over $30 million just in payment processing fees. So yeah, so I think as I said, like there's always a shift towards merchants requiring the cheapest, fastest way of accepting payments. So that trend is going to just keep continuing.
I see, I see. Well, I mean, definitely convenience is one of it. And to incentivize that conversion, most merchants would really want the best payment gateway, possible, and also one that's adopted by masses. Do you think in terms of purchasing frequency, does that affect like the types of, kind of purchase gateways that the merchants try to use would affect their retention rate?
Not necessarily. So I think earlier there used to be some sort of a hesitancy of merchants using like a non-card payment option at checkout because
Mm.
they would assume that there's a bit of an inconvenience for the end consumer, right? So that was always the perception, but that has changed dramatically, mainly because there's been so much adoption of like QR code based payments. Like it's something that's become part of day-to-day lives for us, Asia, where we use like QR code payments every day. So
Mm.
if you do that for offline, why would it be different for online, right? So I think that, and of course it's a win-win for the merchant as well as the customer. They're paying with something that they're familiar doing every day, and the merchant like gets a payment quickly and at a lower cost. So yeah, so I think what we're seeing increasingly, and this is something where Southeast Asia or the Asian region in general is leading the way, where more like where merchants are happy to accept different forms of payment, mainly
Right.
because the convenience now exists on the customer side as well. So
Mm,
there's not a lot of hesitancy.
I see. I see. And in terms of e-commerce, over 2025, have you seen any industries showing, the strongest repeat purchases based on, the collected data that you guys have?
I won't be able to pinpoint anything specifically, but like broadly, you would see like repeat purchases, especially on like day to day like goods.
Mm,
Like something that comes up increasingly for us is like pet products.
I
So
see.
so
Interesting. Okay.
because there is a higher sort of, I mean, ownership of pets now in the region as well. So
Mm,
we definitely do see that, like a lot of new pet businesses being opened, as well as like consumers purchasing a lot of things for the pets. Basically, pets are sort of replacing like like humans, I suppose, where increasingly folks are, of course, like purchasing a wide variety of things for the pet, be it toys or food or whatever it is. So that has sort of sprung up like all of a sudden for us, like in 2025, for example. But of course, apart from that, you'd have the usual suspects in terms of verticals that do well, be it homeware, F&B, yeah, so I think and sort of day-to-day stuff. And you would see the odd occasion that you also see sort of luxury goods segment also coming up, but it's pretty much the same across the board. The only difference that we see is that just increasing adoption, or rather increased purchase of pet goods in our data at least.
I see. Across the three markets, do you see a different payment habit and preferences across Malaysia, Singapore, as well as Philippines?
Broadly, it is the same,
Mm,
but it really comes down to your card penetration rate in each country.
right.
More people have access to cards in a
Mm,
Singapore or Malaysia compared to Philippines. I think that's
I
the biggest
see.
difference. In Philippines, there's more access to your e-wallets. That's the main difference that we see like across the three markets. But one thing is consistent: QR code payments are here to stay.
Mm,
It will only go one way, which is going up,
I
not the
see.
other way around.
I see. For sure, for sure. I can definitely see how QR would stick out the most out of every one of it. And what mistakes do you think regional brands make when they try to treat all the markets the same in that sense?
But that is a mistake for sure. Not be doing that because culturally, I would say uh, all the Southeast Asian countries are really different. The only anomaly might be Singapore and Malaysia, where there's a bit of like similarity from a cultural standpoint. But
Mm-mm.
the other countries, I think you can't put everything into sort of one single bucket.
Right.
So you would need to almost like approach each market as it like unlearn everything that you've done in the old market and then
Mm-mm.
go in with a fresh set of eyes and then approach that new market that way. Yeah, so I think that's what like we would say about sort of tackling with all the markets. Of course, the way you acquire customers and the purchasing power, that there is a bit of difference like across all the markets. I think that's something that you need to keep in mind from a macro standpoint. But all the markets that in Southeast Asia are still sort of high growth sort of from a GDP standpoint. And yeah, so I think that's something that we see sort of across the board.
Wow. For sure, for sure, for sure. What do you think about, if let's say we're going to talk about lifetime values in terms of how payment gateways are able to affect that? What do purchase patterns reveal about intent and lifetime value? And are there any, for example, any early signs that indicate a high lifetime value customer?
I think, of course, having a great loyalty program is critical. Yeah, so I think this is something that we do see a lot of brands like
Mm,
adopting for
mm-mm,
both online and in person. Like when we get, for example, a lot of inbound inquiries, they do ask a lot about loyalty solutions, for example. This is especially the case for the in-person F&B. I
mm-mm,
think it definitely is something that a lot of F&B owners, especially, would value as opposed to e-commerce. And also, like I think loyalty is something that is a natural fit for something that you would use every day.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I'm going to the same coffee shop every day, I
Mm,
need the loyalty program of that coffee shop. That's just an example. So, I think 100% you do need a loyalty software provider. From a payment standpoint, nothing really changes.
right.
Only thing I would say with the payment side of things is which payment option is giving you maybe points or maybe incentives to use that particular payment method. I think that does make a difference sometimes. Um, yeah, so I think that those would be the only factors to consider, I suppose, in terms of getting repeat customers.
It would definitely benefit the merchant if they were able to consolidate different kind of payment gateways to open up that opportunity.
Yeah, so I think that's where like HitPay like provides that value.
Mm,
Basically, we provide pretty much every payment method that you can think of in one single platform. So
love that.
before HitPay, you would need to have one relationship with let's say a PayPal, and then you would need to have one relationship with an Atomy, one relationship with Grab. So you're basically having different vendors
Mm,
is consolidate everyone into one single platform. So that saves merchants a lot of time from a reconciliation standpoint because you're
mm,
dealing with one platform and that one platform is allowing you to activate all the payment methods. So
mm,
there is clearly that value proposition that we do provide to platforms. And of
mm.
course, it's also proven that by having multiple payment methods in your checkout, be it for online or offline, you're going to save costs. So I would always recommend merchants to add as many as possible and let the customer decide,
I
right?
see.
Because that will one increase conversion and two for the merchant you're saving on costs because each payment method has a different commission rate, right? As opposed to you only using cards, which is like, let's just say it's 3%. Then you have different payment methods with a commission rate ranging from, let's just say 0.5% all the way to 2%. So
Mm,
50% of transactions happening through non-cards,
mm.
50% happening through cards, you're obviously going to save costs, like compared to only using cards. Yeah, so I think this is how HitPay adds value to every like e-commerce merchant as well as in-store merchant, essentially.
Thanks for sharing, Adit. Yeah. Yeah, definitely agree with you. And also like in terms of, brands adapting to these latest trends. And I mean, with so many payment options coming up, payment structures coming up as well, right? What are some things that they should be standardizing within their entire customer payment journey?
What I would say for this would be across payment journey, I think it's important to provide a consistent set of
Mm,
payment options. That makes sense. So the customer journey firstly it depends if it's online or if it's in person.
yeah.
So if it's online, then essentially just providing something that's like a one-click checkout is really important
Right, right.
for the online standpoint. And then if it's an offline standpoint, of course, providing something that supports digital wallets like a Apple Pay or Google Pay is again important. And of
Mm,
course, the QR codes payment options. I think basically for a merchant, they just need to ensure that they are optimizing for conversion. So be it for an e-commerce channel or for an offline channel. So there might be a case where you may have an offline payment method that's not for online and vice versa. So you just
yeah.
need to like from a brand standpoint, they just need to optimize for conversions.
So in terms of marketers, usually they look at that entire customer journey from acquisition all the way to retention. And if they want to repeat that cycle, what are some trends that they can start thinking about? And what you said was really great. What you mean like one click checkouts, Apple Pay and Google Pay. These are some of the trends that are coming up in the market right now. And we have seen them drive a huge difference in terms of e-commerce conversion. Thanks for sharing, Aditya. I mean, just to close off a little bit, I have a single handlebar, and this is something that we do at every episode of the Eber Show. And my question to you will be: the best brands in 2026 will be the ones
who are omni-channel, who are cross-border or global from day one, and three, adopt as many payment methods as possible and have a loyalty solution for.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Aditya, for the insights. I think one of the things that stood out from our conversation today is payment is no longer just that transactional layer. It's really a behavioral signal that brands can start toying around with to drive conversions, to even say, yeah, to even strengthen their branding, even. I think it is also a status for the brand in terms of how they choose to lead their customers out to the conversion stands. And how customer pay really tells us so much about how much they trust a brand, how convenient the entire experience feels, and whether they're likely to return.
So 2026 saying a lot of things are changing, especially with AI in the forefront. So I think it's
Mm,
really important that all merchants keep a close eye on everything that's happening in the world of AI,
mm,
as making sure they optimize for what the customer wants
mm.
and delivering value to your customer. So, and like, if you have those basic principles in place, then adopt everything that helps drive those outcomes. So I think that's what would be my overarching advice to merchants.
All right. Thank you so much, Aditya. Thank you so much again for watching this live episode. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Eber channel on YouTube for more conversations with founders like Aditya, marketers, and operators shaping the future of customer connection across Asia. And of course, if you're also looking for a payment gateway system, HitPay has all you need, and you can check them out at HitPay's website, which will be linked in either the comments or the descriptions. And if you're building in retail, F&B, or digital first e-commerce, we'll see you in the next episode of the Eber Show. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.